Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Julie Livingston, president of Want Leverage Communications, and I have a special edition of Julie's PR Patter today because I have an amazing guest. Um, Welcome, Tony D'Angelo. Tony is an APR fellow PRSA, and he joined the Newhouse School of Syracuse University, where I went to graduate school. He joined as a professor of practice and public relations in 2015. And in 2016, he was named the director of the Newhouse School Master's Program in Communications Management and of a new academic offering, which is pretty exciting, called the Financial and Investor Communications Emphasis. Tony's career is really stellar. It's included public relations leadership roles in the corporate side, on the agency side, and for nonprofits, most recently for the ITT Corporation, and before that for St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation, Magna International, United Technologies, and Sage Marketing Communications. His writing and commentary on public relations and strategic communications continue to foster thought in the field, which is so critical. And one of the things I love about being in PR is the ongoing learning from people like Tony. And his thought leadership has been included in top tier media outlets, including the New York Times, the Financial Times, Reuters, and many others. He was a regular contributor to the Wall Street Journal's Crisis of the Week column, an editor of the book 75 Years of Impact and Influence, Places and Moments in Public Relations History, published in 2021. Tony served as the co-chair of the Commission on Public Relations Education and was the Public Relations Society of America's national chair in 2018. Wow. Thank you for being here, Tony.
Oh,
It's
Julie,
great to have you.
Thank you for your generous introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So we have a really juicy topic today, and that is the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, on public relations. I kind of feel like this revolution has already started, and it's here, and there's no going back. As you've said, Tony, we're all being impacted by the advent of AI in our daily lives, whether we practice public relations or not. But in particular, in our field, in marketing and communications, it's really had an impact on everything that we do, and will continue to have that influence, and we have to change and evolve with it. So I know for myself, and I'm sure people in the audience will agree that, you look for restaurant recommendations. It's all powered by the AI, right? In my public relations work, I'm using AI to for speech to text translation, especially using so many Zoom meetings and really wanting to capture my client's voice, their authentic voice in my communications, in my writing. I do a lot of my work on LinkedIn for executives as a ghostwriter and content strategist. So really capturing those exact words that they say is very important to me. So the speech to text feature is really critical. And that there are so many other components of AI that we're now using. So I have a few questions for you. So it's absolutely, AI has exploded on the scene. Should we be excited, or should we also be biting our nails and getting worried?
A little bit of both. And I would characterize it, Julie. First of all, you're right. The genie is out of the bottle. AI is not coming down the road. It's here right now. The speed at which of adoption and uptake is stunning. Right now, ChatGPT is being adopted at a faster rate than TikTok, and TikTok blew everybody's mind.
Wow.
Right? So here we are talking about TikTok as yesterday's technology. Can you believe that? It's not. But, ChatGPT was introduced not even 4 months ago. And now I can tell you here on the faculty at the Newhouse School, I get daily emails about how to deal with ChatGPT. By the way, I am honestly excited about the potential of artificial intelligence. I'm also wary. So my counsel would be, don't be petrified about this, but learn about it And be wary, be careful about potential misapplications, because those are out there and they'll happen at a huge scale, which can really be kind of daunting.
Right. So nothing can really replace what we do as humans in the communications field, right? We still have to heavily proofread and really craft our messaging so that it sounds authentic. And I mean, look, the AI stuff I've been practicing, I've been trying out Chat GPT. It's wild. I mean, it's just wild, and the information that pops up from it sounds pretty good. But there are nuances, as we know, as professional communicators, the nuances of the language, of using colloquialisms and authentic verbiage from real people. It cannot take the place of that. Would you agree?
I would. I think so. A couple of observations. So I'm playing around a lot with GPT, and by the way, with graphics programs like DALL-E 2 that generate art
Right.
just as quickly as ChatGPT generates text. My observation about ChatGPT is that it always sounds like an authority, doesn't it? Whatever it spits out sounds very
Right.
authoritative.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily great on nuance or empathy, right? So there is, I think, a distinction to be made there.
And not to get, I'm sorry to interrupt, but not
Sure.
to get so drawn into it. I think that some of us, look, it's going to save us time in a lot of ways, right? For certain things that communicators do in terms of, media monitoring, customizing media pitches in certain ways, but
Oh, yeah.
we still have to look at that communication before it goes out, because it's those nuances that really signal our credibility as professionals.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think, first of all, so human intervention is important, right? Especially when you consider all the ethical implications of AI. Think about what would happen if one of your clients, Julie, you were working on a broadcast, and by the way, the broadcast could be written by ChatGPT, and it could be broadcast by a human avatar that looks as real as you do. What if there was a deep fake that became part of that?
Right.
What if that deep fake damaged a business? What if the news media reported that deep fake as fact? Who do I see about that? It's a very important question. And I think that's why human intervention is still going to be key. I also think, by the way, that, the printing press did not replace handwriting. The loom,
Right.
the loom did not replace weaving and sewing. And the calculator didn't reduce your and my requirement to learn long division, right? But
That's
it
right.
made those things a lot easier and enabled them to happen at scale. So I'm hopeful that artificial intelligence frees us up for higher level activities, so that the Chat GPTs and many other programs help us do things much, much more efficiently. I would love never to write another bibliography. I'm hopeful that I can just, after I write something, I tell Chat GPT to write a bibliography, and it does that for me. Great.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, that kind of thing. Perfect. Right. That's the perfect application for it, where it's more factual and not based on nuance, and the nuance of language. So do you think that our jobs in the communications field are in jeopardy at all? How will they change over this coming period of time?
Okay. First thing I want to say, not a soothsayer. Okay. I mean, there's a lot about where, and this is part of the trepidation that we feel, that I'm not convinced that anybody truly knows where we're going with this new technology. That, by the way, one of the things about artificial intelligence programs, right, and the bots is they learn from each other. They get smarter as they
Right.
are exposed to data. And such people as Stephen Hawking, for example, had very dire warnings about where that could take us as a society. So I think that's important. I heard a saying though, and I wish I could cite the source. I guess I should ask
Ask
ChatGPT
ChatGPT.
for the source, but it is that we won't be replaced by bots, but we'll be replaced by other humans who know how to work with the bots. And I think that's true, right? And one of the things that kind of blows my mind about this is that, look, we're in the business of relationships. We manage public relationships. And I think one of those relationships now that we're going to have to manage is with artificial intelligence beings and synthetic images, right? And so as sci-fi as that sounds, there is a relationship there, and we're going to have to decide how we do projects together.
Yeah. So we have fought. I mean, one of the things we learned at Newhouse is that public relations must have a seat at the management table in order to be effective. How will this affect our credibility in some way? Will it make it harder for us?
Well, I mean, a couple things. I think, first of all, not if we're the ones to bring a robust discussion about AI to the C-suite. And I think we have to take responsibility for doing that. I was reading this morning that already CEOs are using AI programs to say, and I'm making this up, I'm about to launch this new product. What can go wrong? Right? And so if you have an AI assistant that can tell you that, I think of it as a really powerful thought starter, right? Or I'm about to give a speech to this audience with this point of view. What are the key takeaways? Give me 3 bullets that I need to hammer home in this speech.
I love that. And I have actually been using the Chat GPT to help me fight writer's block. I mean, someday, you know how it is. Some days you sit there by the computer and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to write this byline article or this press release or this bio? It just isn't coming out. And it has definitely, I have to amend what I get, but it sort of is that little boost that sometimes you need to get moving forward.
Well, I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago for the International Public Relations Association, IPRA.
Oh, yes. And I'm going to share that link, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I asked ChatGPT to help me with the article, right? And so what I asked it was, how can AI enhance the practice of public relations? And I won't read this to you, but it gave me in about 3 seconds personalization and tailoring messages, automation of things like media monitoring, content creation, analytics of data and insights, reputation management, managing online reputations by identifying and responding to crises before they escalate. And then I asked, okay, what are the potential dangers of AI in PR? Lack of transparency, bias and discrimination, security risks, loss of jobs, ethical concerns, right? And so I thought, that rings true. And it wasn't necessarily enough for the article, but it definitely got my wheels turning. And as I've become fascinated with this, it's sort of great to have the help,
It totally is. I had a day like that yesterday where I was just stuck. I just hit a wall in writing something for a client, and I got into the Chat GPT, and it definitely, it didn't erase the writer's block completely, but it got me a little further than I was.
Yeah. There are, the New York Times published a piece in November and online. And what they did was they customized an AI program to show images of faces.
Right.
And so you call it up and you see a face. Again, it looks as real as yours or mine, but it's synthetic, right? And what it allowed you to do was make it older or younger, change the shape of the eyes, right? All these different things, change a man into a woman, right? And all that sort of stuff. And it was so realistic that, first it was incredible. So I thought to myself, well, you know what? If I need to do a brochure, I guess I can throw away the model release forms that I need to have humans sign. I can just use these images, right? And at the same time, though, if I'm doing a company brochure, and let's say my whole company is middle-aged white guys, right? Oh, I'll make up a bunch of diverse people and put them in my brochure, which, I'm not okay with that. So the potential for
because again, it's not authentic.
It's not authentic.
Right.
So it's up to me to make the ethical decision, but knowing that there's bad apples everywhere in a lot of industries, the potential to do something unethical and to amplify it at a global scale is kind of mind-boggling. So we really need to be careful. And the other thing is too, the technology is moving so fast, like with a lot of other technologies, the legislation can never catch up, right? And so who's going to regulate this? How exactly, how will legislators catch up to this, again, globally, right? Because, in a digital social world, all communications is global. So the implications are really huge, and the speed is just meteoric.
Yeah. I mean, that they're going to have to catch up pretty quickly in the legal field for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you're in your classroom today and you've got your students with you behind you, which is so great. I wish I was a student again in some ways.
Come back for your doctorate, Julie. Come on back.
You never know. I might. How do you recommend that people who have been in the field a while can dip their toe in the water? And what do you recommend to your students today who are probably they're digital natives for the most part? How are they getting up to speed? And I'm assuming that they have a little less trepidation about it.
I don't know. We're going to talk about that after we conclude our podcast this morning, as a matter of fact. So,
but I mean, we have 5 generations in the workplace today working side by side. Absolutely. So everybody's going to have kind of a different, depending on how old you are, you're going to have a different orientation and attitude about this. How do you get into it?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it is quite easy to search for ChatGPT, to search for DALL-E 2, to search for Google Duplex and other programs that are out there, and simply go in and play around for free, right? And the media now is, none of us can pick up a major, the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. There are articles today about AI and where it's going because there's a real sense of urgency. So I think, this is not something that you need to do in the future. I think we need to do it now.
Yeah. So set your Google alerts for AI articles.
Yeah. And the capabilities truly are interesting. So I think we'll do it. I know that, there is a PRSA webinar program next month about AI. I know that it's going to be a topic of discussion at the Institute for Public Relations and the Global Alliance and other organizations like that. So, the resources are there, I think. And I would say too, I'm going to quote a colleague of mine, Martin Waxman, who is a terrific consultant in the Toronto area. And I attended an AI presentation that he gave in June of last year. And here's his guidance for PR professionals. Understand what AI is and does. Develop an ethical approach to it. Manage risks and reduce bias, because AI programs are biased. They're only as good as the data that they get, right? And the people that provide that have their own biases. Build your own protocol to assess the available AI tools that are out there. You can have, there are thousands of news articles being written today with AI, right? Assess them, determine how you might employ them. By the way, you can broadcast them, you can develop graphics for them. And then, and this is what makes, for one, me a little bit uncomfortable in realizing I have more to learn. Martin Waxman says, think like a data scientist. Because you really have to consider how data moves through the internet and through the metaverse, because this is where our communications experience is migrating.
You know, everything that you're saying rings so true with me. And I think it harks back to really what a great communications professional does. And that is, we must be excellent at critical thinking.
Correct.
And authenticity and in our communication. And so, although this is a fantastic tool in many, many ways, it's going to change our lives basically, but really will have a great impact on what communicators do. I think that continuing to fine tune our individual sense of critical thinking so that we can maintain that credibility at the management table and really act as sort of the educators for the organization on what AI can do and can't do, and around the ethics, the ethical approach to it, is going to be so important going forward.
I think that fortune favors the strategists and the critical thinkers, and I don't think the requirements for that are going away at all. In fact, I think they're increasing, and we're just going to have to exercise those muscles in a very different medium, because what I think is fundamentally different is these are systems that learn, right? Several years ago, Microsoft debuted a bot named Tay. And so Microsoft unleashed Tay on the world, and it was supposed to be sort of a friendly virtual assistant. The problem was other bots corrupted Tay. And Tay ended up live on the internet, criticizing celebrities, right? Saying all these awful things. I remember one in particular was Ricky Gervais.
Right.
Tay said that Ricky learned totalitarianism from Hitler, or some bizarre thing, right? And so they had to shut Tay down. So the points of interaction are not necessarily humans of ill intent. It could be these intelligent agents. So that's another dimension. I'm still wrapping my human brain around that. I think we all have to.
Yeah. Well, I think we're actually at time. It felt like 2 minutes. This was so delightful. Thank you so much. And to your students in the background, go get them. We're waiting for you. We're excited for that next generation of professional communicators to rise up the ranks. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time on Julie's PR Patter.
Thank you, Julie.